Guild SA page. It is such an honor and a privilege for me to be in your presence this evening as we talk about things ezakhayo, izinto zamaZulu. And so this evening is no different. As you know by now, that we bring information that is developing, empowering, and building the nation, not just the South, but also the nation and the community. And this evening, I have a queen as we continue to celebrate Women's Month in South Africa. I have the queen, Awekazi Jijan, who's going to tell us about the differences between a will and a trust. But before she takes the floor and tells us who she is and what are the differences, the goods, the bad, and the ugly, what works better, what should I do or what should you do at the time of your death, or rather do it now in preparation for your death. And so friends, call your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, call your neighbors in case your neighbors need to put you in their will, and call your uncles and your aunties in case the family needs to now register a trust. You will never know when that light bulbs comes on. It might just be tonight. And so friends, let us close our eyes and pray. Modimo ntate, Modimo morwa, Modimo moya o mokgethwa. Shombe letšatši senate sa legodimo re tla pela terone ya gago ya kgaogelo, giving you all the honor and all the glory. Sithi akekho Thixo ofana nawe. Mesiona mandla makhulu. This evening, Lord, is no different from the other evenings that we have called upon your holy name. Sazokucela sakucela into yobana ungene nokungena kwethu kwezi ngxoxo mesiona mandla makhulu. Umoya wakho ingcwele uvakale ngaphakathi kuthi from wherever we may find ourselves, because we believe in your omnipresence, Thixo namandla amakhulu, that apho ndikhoyo Nkosi, umoya wakho oyingcwele ukho, nalapho sisicawekazi ekho, umoya wakho Thixo wethu ukho kuye. Mesona amandla amakhulu, please lead and guide these conversations, because we do not do them and we do not engage in them for ourselves, but it is to glorify your holy name. My people perish because of their lack of knowledge. And we're trying to make sure that we spread the gospel as far and as wide as we can. And so to this conversation so that your people may not perish, but they did not know. We pray all of this to sing us bang, knowing we don't deserve any of it, but we trusting, hoping, and in faith that was our pendula. Amen.
Amen.
And so friends, this evening I bring a friend, a sister, and if you know me, you know that I stand a queen with a red lipstick, because sometimes that is the only way uzawulwa nabadabi azithandabuzisayo nge-red lipstick ungene ezintweni kusuke izinto just because you're the queen that you know that you are. Sister Wakazi, welcome to Wesley Guild SA.
Greetings, Ms. Arendse, and thank you so much for inviting me. And greetings to Wesley Guild and everyone who's listening.
It is such an honor for us to have you, because this evening about a very important topic. It is a topic that is very dear to people of a particular age, especially when you get to the age here, you realize, but hey, you never know when your time will come when God is going to call you up yonder. So we need to be prepared. But before you tell us about wills and trust, who is Usisi Cawekazi?
uCawekazi Jijana, intombi yangapha eMount Frere, and I am based in Durban. I am working for Jijana Attorneys. I am a director, I am an attorney, I am a notary, I am a conveyancer.
So there is no way after this evening anyone would say bendingayazi.
Definitely.
Okay, so I'm going to give you some time so that you could give us an introduction and maybe a bit of a presentation about wills and trusts, and then after that I'm going to invite questions, comments, and participation from our friends, so that whoever does not understand from your presentation, then you can clarify it afterwards.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Arendse. So what I'm going to do, I am going to explain a will in comparison to a trust. And then I believe people will be able to understand, and maybe going to be able to answer many questions that they have currently. So a will is a legal document whereby a person outlines how their assets are to be distributed in the event they die. Whereas a trust, it is a legal arrangement whereby a person donates his or her assets into a trust and then appoint someone who's going to take control and hold those assets on behalf of someone else. They have something in common, meaning it involves one person who makes a decision to give out their assets to someone else. And in terms of the will, the parties that are involved, it's a testator or a testatrix, which is a person who makes the will, and there's an executor, who is the person who's going to take control of those assets once the person has passed on, who's going to distribute to the right heirs or to the right beneficiaries in terms of the will. And then we'll have heirs, which we call them beneficiaries. And on the side of the trust, we have a founder, who is the person who creates a trust. We have trustees. Those are the people who are going to take hold of the assets. Once the asset has been donated, they take hold of the assets, and they have control of the assets. And thirdly, the parties involved are beneficiary, meaning the person you want to benefit out of the trust. So in terms of the trust, we have a testamentary trust, a trust that you can create it by making a provision on the will that once you die, a trust must be formed so that the assets can be transferred into that trust. And then we also have a trust which is called inter vivos trust, which is a living will, meaning a trust that is created while we are alive and you donate everything while you are alive. So in terms of the will, a will starts to be operational when a person dies. Whereas in terms of a trust, you don't have to die. You donate your assets, you distribute your assets while you are still alive. Now, with the requirements of the will, the person who makes a will must be over 16 years old. A will must be written down. You cannot have a verbal, there's no verbal will. It has to be written down. You don't have to type it out. You can write it by hand. It doesn't matter, but it is advisable that you type it out so that, especially when you know that your handwriting is not good, so that there won't be a confusion as to what you intended to say. And also the will must be signed, and signed by the testator and two competent witnesses. And if your will is more than one page, each and every page must be signed by a testator in the presence of two competent witnesses, and it must be dated. So when it comes to the trust, the crucial document that governs the trust, where the life and death of a trust is, it is called a trust deed. So a trust deed is a constitution of the trust. So your trust deed will explain or outline each and everything that is supposed to happen while the trust is operational. So if your trust is bad, you might as well not have a trust, because if a trust deed is not drafted accordingly, it is not drafted well, it's not going to be effective. So your trust deed will normally have common clauses such as the name of the trust, It will be listing beneficiary of the trust. It will be listing the names of the trustees. It will also be telling us what happens when one of the trustees has passed on or resigned. It will also have clauses like duties of trustees. It will have clauses like powers of trustees. It will have clauses like duration of the trust. It will have clauses like when you terminate the trust, and it will have clauses like what trustees can do and what trustees cannot do. And it will also have clauses such as where there is a dispute, how do you handle disputes? And it will have clauses where you distribute the assets of the trust. So in terms of the trust, your trust, in terms of the trust, your trust duration can be indefinite. So as long as you want it to exist, it's going to exist. Whereas in terms of the will, with the will, once the executor does everything that is said on the will to be done, that's the end of the will. You cannot use it anywhere else. Whereas with the trust, as long as you want it to run, it's going to continue running. It's going to continue to exist. Now, let's come to why people choose trust in prefer trust, or what are the reasons people open trust. The common reasons why people create trust is when they have substantial assets, they normally prefer opening a trust because when you are a person who has substantial assets, obviously you want to have a legacy that is going to be there even after your death. So when you create a trust, it is best to see it operational while we are still alive. We are able to see if this legacy that we are creating, it is going to be sufficient for your next generation. And also one of the reasons people open a trust, it's whereby they want to separate themselves from their assets, and also they are separating themselves from creditors. Remember, a trust is a separate entity. So you can sue a trust and I'm the founder or I'm a beneficiary, but you cannot come to me in a personal capacity to say, I am suing you, teacher. If you are suing a trust, you are suing a trust. You cannot sue me in my personal capacity. Unless I have used a trust for a wrong reason, then they can go after me. And also, one of the reasons that people are opening trust, they are trying to guard against the complications and the costs that come up in terms of winding up an estate, because there are cost implications, especially with the administration of an estate. So they want to make sure that everything, it is left intact, it is left with people who are going to control the assets even after their death. In terms of the will, many people, they make a will if they don't believe that they have much assets to leave behind. And a will is a simple way and cost effective in terms of making the will, because it is much cheaper to make a will as compared to creating a trust. However, the tricky part is the administration costs after death are quite exorbitant, because one, an attorney or a bank or whoever who's going to be an executor, they will obviously charge maybe a file fee when you come to them to open a file. They are going to charge you current tariff is 3.5% of the total assets. So if your assets are 2 million, then the executor will be paid 3.5% of the total estate. And also there are also administrative costs, such as advertising on newspapers. There are master's fees. There can also be creditors who come up after your death, like your SARS, like your loan, like your loan or anything else. So most of the time, people got stuck in terms of winding up the estate because they do not have sufficient funds to finalize the administration of estates. And in some cases, one ends up, in terms of the executor, they end up selling the properties so that they can be able to continue with the administration of the estate. Whereas in terms of the will, of the trust, the cost that one incurs are the cost of creating a trust. So it's only when you create a trust, but other than that, you don't incur costs unless it is a trust that is very active in terms of you are operating a business. Because you can also open a trust if you want to operate a business, let's say, for example, a family business. So if it's going to be an active trust whereby you are operating a business, obviously there are going to be cost implications, such as you need to submit your financial statements. There are tax implications. And also, if, for example, you appointed a trustee that is an attorney, obviously I will not work for free. So obviously, I will also charge if there's anything that I have to do. But we are charging on performance that you've done or a duty that was done at that particular time. So it's not a matter of I am charging maybe 2,000 for each and every month, no. And also the good thing about it is that you are able to negotiate costs in terms of, if we are going to be a trustee, then we are going to negotiate costs as to how do you charge me or how do you charge a trust. Whereas on the will, you don't negotiate. It is a tariff. It is there in black and white. So you cannot say, or maybe you cannot negotiate those costs. And then one other thing that I want to talk about is that in terms of the will, you must make sure that your will is a will that is practical. Sometimes people put clauses that are not practical, and as a result, those wills become ineffective. Sometimes it goes as far as one has to bring an application in High Court for the interpretation of that will. So it's also costly to go to High Court for an interpretation of a will, whereas you are supposed just to say simple things, I give so and so this and that. You don't have to complicate everything. So in terms of the will, the duration part of it, with the will, unfortunately, when you've administered the estate, that's the end. So you have no control as such in terms of how people are using the assets that we've given them after your death. And also, yes, somehow you can also have a clause which we call a fideicommissum, whereby I say I give A this asset, but when they die, I give B. But you cannot direct beyond the second person. Whereas in terms of the trust, you can, give your assets beyond whatever you want to be done with your assets. You can even give it until the 50th generation, it does not matter. But with the will, you are only limited to have 2 generations to give to. So also, one other thing that I need to highlight is that the assets that you can put in a will, it can be assets that are fully paid. It can be assets that are still under mortgage, that are still financed. You can put them under your will. But in terms of the trust, you cannot transfer assets that are still mortgaged, that are still financed by banks. Because when you applied for those financing or a mortgage, you would have applied in your personal capacity. And obviously, the bank would have checked your credibility, whether you qualify, and all those things. So you cannot transfer an asset that is still mortgaged up until you pay it off, and then you are able to transfer it into the trust. Even though you can be able to buy assets in the name of the trust, but obviously it's going to be when you are going to use a bank to buy those assets, they are obviously going to check the finances of the trust. I think for now, let me stop and allow you to answer, to questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Sis. You have given me so much information to work with. But the one question I have just at the top of my head, where you finished off, you're saying that in a trust, it is only assets that have been paid up that can form part of the trust. So which means if I have a house, but then the house is not paid up, I do not have the title deed in my hand, I cannot include it in the trust.
Yes, that's correct. Because remember, that asset, it is yours on paper, but there's also an endorsement by the bank that in case anything happens, the bank has a preference. So it can never be transferred to a trust while the bank is not paid up. So it is yours, but not yours.
Yeah. So is it possible that Mshambi, I can say I have a house or whatever asset for that matter, but it's owned by it's officially owned by the bank, but I'm the co-owner on paper. But then I can say I maybe have a life cover that when I die, that house now belongs to me. Then the life cover pays it out. And then I don't want to give that house to somebody else. So I say, on my death, as soon as the life cover pays the house up, that house must be transferred into a trust. Can I do that? Or will the law say, no, you must rather have a will?
Unfortunately, you'll have to state that on the will. So that's why I said there's a testamentary trust and there's individual's trust. So as soon as you die and the credit life pays off the property, then the property will have to be transferred into the trust that you want to be transferred into.
Okay. All right. Then it makes sense because then I can. Okay. Now it brings me to my other question. It's probably not necessary for everyone to have a trust, but is it necessary for everyone to have a will?
It is very important. It's a life and death to have a will. Yeah. And most people say, I don't have assets, but they don't realize that even if it's the smallest asset, you need to include it in a will. For instance, one doesn't have a house, doesn't have a car.
Yes.
And then let's say they die due to maybe accident. Sometimes you'll find where RAF ask the master. The master is where we open files for winding up estate and where we make all trusts. So sometimes it happens that RAF will go to the master and check who is the heir in the file. So you can claim directly with RAF, but in some instances, they come and get information from the master's office. So obviously, at the master's office, they will see if there's a will because they also ask for it if there's a will or not. And in some instances where you were working and then there's provident fund, there's pension. Sometimes it happens they don't pay it directly to the beneficiaries. Sometimes they go and ask at the master's office, who is the executor? Is there a will? So even if you don't have the assets, maybe currently, but it is important that you must have a will, at least if you are working, so that in case it is needed, it is able to be produced by whoever who has the will.
Yeah. You remind me of a story where a mother was working and did not have a will, but they had young kids. So when they passed away, the family took over everything, and then the kids were neglected because there was no will, and then the mother was not married. So there was just a long story. Or sometimes when there are couples and the couples decide to cohabitate, and then there is no will, and it happens that the breadwinner passes away, then the person who's left, maybe with their kids, especially when they are kids, it gets even more gruesome. So I
Yes.
totally hear you when you say there has to be a will. Now I'm going to play the devil's advocate, but I just heard somewhere, and I do not know the facts. I'm hoping that you can assist us. There is now a saying that goes that when people, even though you have a will, that the executor can decide to forego whatever you had stated in your will. Maybe you have written in your will that Ukawekazi must get my everything. And then the executor comes, and then now they realize, no, actually, Kawekazi must not get everything. Silayalo had a daughter or a son somewhere, even though they were not taking care of them. Then they decide in their own discretion to distribute your assets according to the way they think and feel that it should be distributed. Am I correct in my understanding?
No, there is no way you can distribute to people who are not part and parcel of a will. Okay. The only time where you would maybe bring it up in terms of bringing someone who's not an heir is whereby you have excluded a child. Yes. But the child is not going to be getting as an heir. Oh. The child can lodge a claim, which is a maintenance claim, whereby the master would then look at the maintenance claim and approve that, you know what, the child is supposed to be maintained, and a parent has a legal duty to maintain a child up until they are 18 years old. So they don't come as an heir, they come as a creditor because they've lodged a claim for maintenance.
True. That makes sense. That makes sense. I totally, I love that. Now, let us talk about the responsibility of executorship. There has been issues where people are saying that maybe they have nominated a bank to be executive of their will, but then the banks, one, they take forever. Two, they swindle people of their monies because of that 3.5%. They drag and drag and drag, and before you know it, now the banks will come to you and say, you don't have enough money, you have to sell the house, or we have to sell some of the assets or the assets. So now beneficiaries and heirs end up not benefiting anything. Everything now goes to the bank. Who is best placed to be an executor of somebody's will?
You can appoint or nominate anyone to be an executor. But the tricky part is if you don't have expertise in terms of administering of an estate, they can appoint you and be appointed and be issued with a letter of executorship, but they are not going to allow you without an attorney or a bank or anyone. So in terms of appointment, meaning appointing an executor, you can appoint an ordinary person, but unfortunately, they are not allowed to act by themselves. They need an agent to assist. Okay. So in terms of who's good at what, in terms of the bank, remember, with the bank, you don't interact like me as in coming to my office as an attorney. With the bank, they usually speak through a consultant or whoever who's going to be in the bank. But the administration, section, estate administration section, is usually maybe in Joburg or wherever it is, but you don't get to be in contact with them in terms of face-to-face or encounter with them, because they are specifically not seeing clients, like you would come to my office. So it's up to people to decide whether they want a friendly kind of situation whereby they appoint an attorney that they can trust. Remember, with the appointing an executor, you appoint someone that you trust. You don't appoint someone that is not does not have a good interest at heart for your kids or whoever that you are leaving assets for. So all I'm saying is, if, for example, an executor failed, I believe we would have failed because as a testator or a person who made that will, because you first check who is the right person who can be able to take care of my kids, who can be able to take care of whoever I'm leaving the assets with.
Yeah, sure. And that's very important, because sometimes people nominate people maybe because it's a relative, or they just trust that the banks will do the best job, or whoever else will do the best job. And then by the time you realize these people do not have the best interest of my beneficiaries, you are dead. You cannot do
Yes.
anything about the situation.
Yeah.
Sure. Another question with regards to an executor. Can an executor be a beneficiary of your asset, of your estate?
Yes, an executor can be a beneficiary, but an executor cannot be a witness to your will, because it is believed that maybe you might persuade the testator to leave assets for you. That's why they cannot be
a witness.
A witness. They cannot be a witness, and also it is advisable that they must not be the ones who keep the will, because it can be questionable.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Hey, because sometimes Umdu will be a beneficiary and a witness, and you know what's in the will, you know what's coming to you.
Yes.
You might just want to keep it. You might just want to ask the person, Ufani, because I'm broke, I need that house.
The minute you become a witness, that will is questionable already.
Yeah.
It is questionable. It can be regarded as null and void.
Imagine.
Yeah.
Sure, it's insane. Thank you so much, Sisi. Now let's get into trusts. With a trust, you said that people sometimes create a trust to separate their person or themselves from the assets, even though they may have been the ones who had acquired those assets, correct? So now let's say I have 10 houses, I've got shares, I've got all of these things, and I want to protect these things. And I do not trust my family, because sometimes you leave your assets to a person, then after you die, the person says, no, let's just sell that house, and then they move on. But then you probably have a different vision for what you need that house or all of your assets to do. So in that instance, please explain, if you can, how does one register a trust? And if you know, how much plus minus does it cost?
Okay, so it is advisable that you register a trust through an attorney, because an attorney needs to first draft a trust deed. That I said, it is a constitution. So with any ordinary person cannot be able to draft that legal document, because that is the life of the trust. So I always suggest that approach an attorney, and then there are documents that needs to be completed, which are the reporting documents, which are available at the Department of Justice. And there's a fee that has to be paid, which is currently 250 for the which are master's fees. And also you will need ID of the founder, the trustees, the beneficiaries. And if beneficiaries are underage, you obviously need also the IDs of guardians. And then you submit that at the Master of High Court. Master of High Court is the only institution that registers trusts. Okay. So currently they are introducing an online registration, which is still at an early age, stage of it's a pilot thing for now. So that is where you register a trust, and then they normally stamp the trust deed, because everywhere you go, if you're going to talk about the trust, if you go to the bank, if you go anywhere else, they are going to require a trust deed, because they need to see whatever you're coming to do, you have powers to do. So they're going to check the trust deed. If you're opening an account, they're going to check which clause allows you to open an account. And then they also issue a letter of authority, which is going to reflect the name of the trust, the trustees that are nominated. So that letter, it's a very important, the trust deed and the letter of authority are the most important documents that you need to keep, because you cannot speak without the letters of authority.
Yes.
It is your key to everything. So if you have maybe 3 trustees, those trustees are going to be triplets or twins, whichever way you're going to put it, because one trustee cannot act alone without the other one. Unless the other trustees give a resolution that this one must go and open an account, we give him a permission to do so.
All right. Sure. That is very helpful. Thank you. I am thinking now, what happens if one trustee passes away?
Remember, your trust did make provision for all circumstances and situation or events that have not happened. So your trust did will always have a clause that states if one passes on, who's the next. You can specifically appoint a person, or you can state that the trustees will make a decision who's going to join them. But you must always make sure that you state how many trustees can be in a trust. So you can say maybe a minimum of 5, a maximum of 10. So in between 6, 7, and 8, you can have those trustees, whether they are 7 or 8, but you make provision for everything. That is why I say it is your constitution.
Yeah. But people who have like 10 trustees are millionaires and billionaires. Imagine having a trustee for your 1 RDP house and 2 cars.
Well, you can put all assets under one trust.
Okay. So long as they're paid up.
As long as it's paid up.
Yeah.
So you can put as many assets under one trust, but I always suggest that if you're going to have a family trust where you want to secure a home for your kids,
yeah,
and also with other assets you want to have a business, you might as well have 2 trusts so that you separate them. A family home and then a business trust where you're going to operate it like any other company, because you're going to attract creditors and debtors. So separate it from your maybe home if there's a home for your kids.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It definitely makes better sense for me. You spoke earlier about your heirs or your beneficiaries, and you said that in a will, you can only donate your assets to the maximum of 2 generations. So
Yes.
if my mother has assets that she would like to donate, she can donate them to me as the first generation, and then to my kids as her grandkids. Am I understanding you correctly?
Yes, you can do that. So, for instance, you'll have a clause that states, I bequeath my house to Kawekazi, and if she dies, I bequeath my house to Sinesipho. So you can do like that, so that you don't have the. So remember, with the fideicommissar, the first person who benefits, which is from the testator to the first person, the first person who benefits, they cannot be able to give it to someone else. They don't have that freedom, because there's a second person or there's a third person who has to eventually get that asset.
That's what I was thinking about, because I'm thinking, what if Kawekazi wants to give it to somebody else? So now Kawekazi cannot, because the original owner has nominated somebody else.
Yes, yes. So with the fideicommissary, if you are a fiduciary is the first person who gets it. So the first person who gets it, they use it as long as they are still alive, but they cannot give it to someone else because it has to go to that third person. So that third person can do whatever they want to do because it's not going to continue to someone else.
Yes. Okay. But then when it comes to trusts, that rule does not apply. With a trust, the house can go for 100 generations.
It does not apply. And also with the trust, what I also need to mention is that when you are a founder, the minute you donate the assets into the trust, you don't have control that much in terms of you are going to call shots because you've donated them into the trust.
Okay.
So the trustees are going to be controlling them. So you cannot wake up and say, you know what, I am selling that property. You cannot do that. We cannot wake up and say, I am removing this beneficiary. So when you remove the beneficiary, you need to notify that beneficiary that from now on, you are not going to be a beneficiary. And then the beneficiary might also put something in writing that I have received a notification and I accept my removal.
Sure. It's like you have power, but you're powerless because then you have entrusted your power onto the trust and the trustees.
But also, you can also be a trustee and a founder.
Okay. But still, you won't do as you please.
You won't do as you please. And also, one thing that I did not mention is that if a trust is a business trust, it is a requirement that there must be an independent person who is not related to you guys, related to the beneficiary, not related to the trustee by blood.
Okay. For objectivity.
So that, yes, it's for that purpose. Because they used to create trust to hide assets, and sometimes they will do to commit some crimes, money laundering and all those things. So they now changed the law to say there must be an independent person. And obviously an independent person, I cannot keep quiet when there's something wrong that is being done because I'm also going to be held accountable. True. So that's why there has to be an independent person.
Sure. Now you're implicated in money laundering that you have no idea where it started.
Yes, unless you also enjoy the benefits, then you're going to be part and parcel of the crime.
Oh, no, it can never be me. It really can never be me. So I'm not really sure. I wanted us to maybe touch on, I know that some people are worried about the tax implications of having a trust. You know, there isn't much tax implications when it comes to a will until you die. Then there's like that deceased estate. But what are the tax implications? Because sometimes we leave all of these things to our children and then we do not leave imali for them. So now they don't have money to pay for the administration that comes with the passing of a loved one. So what are the tax implications for the two?
In terms of tax implications with the will or with administration of estates, the only time that you get taxed is whereby the net will be assets minus liabilities, then you get your net. So if your net is more than 3.5 million, then whatever you exceed with is going to be 20% of that, which is going to be an estate duty.
Yes.
And then in terms of the trust, I am not a tax practitioner, but what I hear is that you must make sure that your beneficiaries make use of the benefits so that you reduce your profits.
Yeah.
But if it's a trust where you are not receiving any income, obviously it's not going to be taxed because there's no income coming through.
Yeah. Sure.
It's a matter of declaring that there's a trust, but it is not active. It does not accrue any income.
Yeah. And now let's maybe talk about winding down. Is it winding down the estate or winding off of the estate?
Winding up of an estate.
winding up of an estate. Thank you.
Yes.
What administrative, because I had a friend of mine whose mom passed away, and she said that after that, she had so many things to do, including going to the creditors and closing off those accounts.
Yes. So when you are appointed as an attorney to be an agent, you are supposed to do all those things because that's why you are charging 3.5%. The
Yeah.
client is not supposed to go door to door and collecting assets because they're not going to be paid for that. You are the one as a professional person who's going to get a 3.5%. So you need to work for it.
Sure. So now if Umama has an account at some clothing store, a food store, all of those creditors need to know. I'm getting frustrated because I'm like, imagine if you have someone who likes debt and they have a lot of accounts, and now if you're an executor, you have to do all of that admin. Is putting it in the newspaper enough?
Okay, remember with us, we are not going to be looking for creditors. That's why the law says you must put it on newspaper and a government gazette. And in most cases, they don't check the newspaper and government gazette. So as a result, with me, I do, even if you can tell me there's a debt somewhere, I am not going to go to them. I'm going to wait for them to come to me. If they don't come, unfortunately, I am not going to disclose that. Maybe it's unethical, but I don't look for creditors. Creditors must look for me because we've advertised on newspaper.
Yeah.
The only creditors that there's no way you can bypass is whereby it's a house that is mortgaged. Unfortunately, you cannot bypass that one. Also, if there's a car that is financed, but with the personal loans, your accounts from Woolworths, most of the time they come to you after even you have closed the file. But once you close the file, there are phases. If after the phase where the master has allowed me to distribute, I will distribute. If they come after that, unfortunately, it's their loss. I cannot do anything.
Yeah. No, I'm totally with you. I don't know if it's unethical or not, but I just feel like if I had to advertise it in the newspaper, cannot also do a double job of coming and knocking on your door and saying, oh, does this client have an account with you? I would just sit and relax, Swetu. Is there a deadline that says after this date, no one can come and claim?
Okay, like I said, there are phases. So the first phase of calling creditors, it's immediately when we get a letter of executorship. So we advertise on newspaper, we let it live for to be open for 30 days. And then I draft a liquidation and distribution account, which is a document that explains what assets were received and how are we distributing it. And then after it has been approved by the master, we advertise it again. We advertise again on newspaper, which is 21 days. So the minute I submit proof that I've advertised and I did not receive any objections, the master will obviously give me a permission to distribute. So immediately I get a permission, I need to distribute in terms of that liquidation and distribution account. So I give them. So if I've received that permission then, and I've already given them, there's nothing they can do unless it happened that when they lodged a claim and then the master had not given me a permission, then the master is able to listen to that claim and decide whether they accept it or reject it.
Sure. Okay. It's such a long process. But I guess if you don't have a will, it makes it even more difficult because then anyone can come and claim your assets.
Yes, anyone can come. Most of the time, there are people who, when a person dies, even before they are buried, they're already at the Master of High Court. They're already applying without other family members. They are excluded. There's a lot of fraud and all those things. So it's advisable that you have a will with someone that you can trust, who is going to report. You don't have to wait for someone to be buried. We have a culture of saying we are still mourning. Don't mourn because someone out there is crying with one eye. So
they're not crying at all.
They are not crying at all. So you need to go and report the estate so that it does not get into the hands of a wrong person.
Yeah. And that leads me to this question that I received. What if someone, when a person dies, and then someone maybe goes to court and they take a claim on the assets of the deceased, but by that time, maybe the will has not even been read yet. And then the court maybe says, okay, we cannot bury this person. You have to read the will. Where is the will? And then the will comes, and maybe the person wanted to be buried in Kanduli, but the wife decided, no, we are in Cape Town. I'll bury my husband in Cape Town. What do you do in that kind of situation when a will is being questioned?
But you will have to go to court so that the court can decide what must happen. Because the master alone cannot decide on that one. In issues or disputes pertaining to a will, they have to go to a high court. And then a court will make a decision and give an order.
Yeah. I mean, as an example, if someone says, I want to be cremated, but then you are married to someone who does not believe in cremation and wants to bury you.
But it is your wish, so that wish has to be fulfilled.
Then now the family is torn apart because Abanye, no, but it was their wish. And then Abanye, they're like, no, but we don't do that in this household. We are
But
sure.
eventually it has to be done. If it's in the will, it has to be done.
Yeah. Sure. Okay. Sisi, I thank you so much. There are certain questions that I needed to have, especially as far as a trust is concerned, because I think the biggest issue is that people think it's expensive to create a trust and to manage a trust. So, it also, I think you've made a lot of people comfortable in why anyone would need a trust. And now there's a big hype and hoo-ha about having trust. I was not even aware that you cannot put assets that are still owed, so to speak, in a trust. So that's another eye opener to say you can want to have a trust, but those assets, for as long as you're still owing the bank, as an example, they cannot form part of your of the trust. Yeah.
Yes.
So
yes.
that was very important for me. I'm not sure if maybe there's other things, maybe frequently asked questions that people generally come to you with that we have not asked. Maybe that would be beneficial and helpful to our members.
I think you've asked all questions or most questions that people are interested in.
Yeah.
Except that people always also ask, where do they keep their will?
Yes.
Whether they keep the will with an attorney or who. So in my case, there are few people that I offer to keep their wills.
Okay.
Because remember, with an attorney, I might not know that a person has passed on. So I need to have relations with a family to know that this person has passed on. So with me, I always, when I make a will, I always make sure that I have I make 3 original wills. And I tell them that they must keep them with 3 different people that they can trust. So that if one loses it, or maybe one does not disclose it, at least amongst the 3, there is someone who's going to be able to come up with the will. Because, people get influenced by family members once they know that there's a will with so and so, or maybe they have preference with, when they look at the will, they prefer so and so, and they rather not disclose that there's a will. So that is what I always do. And also, lastly, before we close, September is a wills month.
Okay.
There is a National Wills Week whereby attorneys who form part of pro bono attorneys do wills free.
Yeah.
So you can go to your legal aid. You can also check with Legal Practice Council, who are the attorneys who are participating in that. So they are going to be under pro bono attorneys. So they have you can Google them and then set up an appointment with them. So people can take advantage of that wills week, whereby they can make will for free.
Absolutely. There is now a new question that came through from Ukwaku Ngoko. Ndicela ukubuza ukuba xa kusenzeka nishiywa ngumzali, i-will isithi lo mzi ngowabantwana bakhe bonke, then the older one claimed to be indlalifa yalapha ekhaya athi umzimba wakhe lithini ilungelo lama-siblings?
Unfortunately, in terms of Intestate Succession Act, we don't have indlalifa. It does not exist.
Okay.
All children are equal, whether you are married, whether you are a major, whether you are a minor. So if there's a will, obviously it's going to be distributed according to the will. But if there's no will, it is going to be distributed equally so. Whether uyindlalifa okanye awuyiyo, it does not make any difference. But kwamaster, they are going to make sure that each and every child receive equally so. So ke ngoku it may be a matter of pha ekhaya umuntu gets bullied by indlalifa, but by law izobe isegameni lakho as umntana ka-deceased.
Yes. So if it's the 10 of you, you each have a equal percentage basically to the
equal percentage, even if there's a child that has passed on. That inheritance that belongs to that child, it goes to their child, the next in line.
Yeah.
So it goes get bloodline.
Yes.
So that's why it ends up going to our grandchildren.
Yes.
Maybe sometimes it goes as far as baby daddy, those things. It gets complicated. So it's a story for another day. It's a story for another day, but
yeah.
it's very dangerous to have assets and don't have a will, because i-assets zakho zifikele ezandleni that you did not want them to get into. For instance, singosisi abanabantwana ne?
Yes.
Out of marriage. So if I die, obviously my asset is going to go to my child. When my child dies, the asset is going to go to baby dad. And there's nothing you can do because you did not leave a will.
Baby dad ungenaphi?
Uyangena, because why are you not making a will? Because
for another day. So I think at some point we need to talk about relationships,
yes,
marriages, different types of marriages, and also partnerships. Because now a lot of women are choosing not to get married, but they are choosing partnerships. So what are legal implications of those partnerships? We are just doing life.
Well, you can do life because in any event, a partnership is not recognized, and not unless it's a registered partnership.
Sometimes they don't register them. It's like, no, you do you, boo, I do me. And then we meet together as Pakatini. And then there are children. And then all of these things come up.
Well, it's much better if there are children, because obviously, if that partnership is not registered, the assets are going to go to your children, not unless you have money to go and challenge that at high court. But most of the time, abantu, they don't go to high court because they know it costs better.
Yeah, but anyway, this is not for this one. Or maybe it is. So, mama, baby mama, let's just use the terms as people know them. Oh, baby mama is in a relationship, no baby dad. They have a child together, but they're not married. They live together. And then baby mama, they live in the house, got baby mama. So baby daddy came and moved in. The house is in the name got baby mama. Now she passes on, but the child is a minor. So now does that mean the baby daddy inherits the house?
I knew you were coming there. So obviously, property, house is going to be registered egameni lomntana, ne?
Yes.
But unfortunately, umntana akakwazi ukuzihlalela phaya endlini.
Exactly.
So kunyanzelekile ubaby daddy amuve in ahlale endlini, uzohlala ne-girlfriend yakhe futhi kule ndlu yomntana wakho. There's nothing you can do.
And even I'm not even a baby mama to anyone, but I'm just feeling the pain.
It happens. Yes. There's a lot we can talk about kwinto zamafa, ne? Because ezinye izinto they catch us off guard.
Yes.
For instance, I'm thinking about cases where I've dealt with and I felt, you know, ube personal ngathi lento yenzeka kuwe. But you are supposed to not to be biased, ne? Be impartial, but unomsindo engathi lento yenzeka kuwe. So one time I attended, I was still working at Master High Court back then.
Okay.
Usisi is married, and then they separated no husband for a very long time, I think for 15 years.
Okay.
And then unomntana before marriage, abenabantwana abasemtshatweni. Now, banga-divorce. Okay. So when they got married and bought indlu yabo, it was just an RDP house. I think it was a 1-bedroom house. So she extended the house, and now it's a big house, a beautiful house. Uyashona sisters, akashiyanga will. Brothers is staying in Johannesburg. Abasamazi nje. Yaphuma death certificate city married. Really? They had to locate a husband. I feel husband, afike ebuza amafa akhe uba unkosikazi ushiye ntoni, I need those assets. Family ke kankosikazi ke, they started fighting nje, you know, fighting because brothers ngoku njembefika he has no interest nje, akanandaba.
Yes.
Into ayifunayo nje, it's the assets, because I remember when he came to complain, I was dealing with the fight. He came to complain because family members bathatha furniture yonke bayiphindisa kubo ekhaya. Yes. Bayiphindisa because already kaloku he was already fighting ngemali zebhenki ezifunela ngakuye, and they knew ukuthi akazuwenza funeral, proper funeral for umntana wabo. So they started taking furniture and all that. So he came to complain to me that now the family members they took furniture. My wife had a white leather couch, a very expensive one. Hey,
and my wife
yavele onyuka ipressure kum. Ndathi uyabona ke uyafuneka into yokuba uke ube yindoda esijongayo isidima sayo, because uzokhalela, like I was not supposed to, because at the end of the day yishare yakhe. Umama bena-choice yokumdivorce, but she chose not to.
Sure.
So nathi ngicela uze ube nesidima, ube for once uke ube yindoda enesidima, because you left here abantwana besebancinci. Awazi noba bebephila ngantoni, uzokhalazela i-couch. Yes. Uzokhalazela i-couch wena. Asikathethi nge-school fees zabantwana, okufikile ubathengele ntoni, nothing. Ukhalazela i-couch uyithathiwe. Lo couch yeke ukuyeka uchuku. Lo couch yeke, if it was for me, kwayile estate, kwayile show uzoyifumana, ufanele unika abantwana.
Yes.
So izinto ezikanjalo ke ziyenzeka because abantu they don't live a will.
Yeah. Ingathi we know when we are going to die and no one knows.
No one knows, and I believe kula situation mhlawumbi, because obviously utata uzofumana a bigger share in terms of the umzekelo, if an estate yakho it's around 500,000, the spouse gets everything.
Okay.
And there are cases whereby the spouse will get everything, maybe nomntana before marriage obunayo. Xa seyingakuye indlu ayithengise akhuphe abantwana bakho athi ndicela niphumele. So abantwana bakho ke ngandithi ubashiyile, they are stranded, they don't have a home. Awutshongo nokuthi mabagadwe ngubani and all that. Intsebenzo yakho nje, it went down the drain.
Down the drain because we failed to plan for the future.
We failed to plan.
Sure. Sis guys, I can never do what you do because I am too empathetic. I am a very serious and a deep empath. So it pains abantu sometimes it's tatela pagum. So yeah, there are certain jobs I know without a shadow of a doubt that I can never do because they just have to be stern.
You grow a thick skin.
Yeah.
With experience, you grow a thick skin.
Yeah, no, but you're doing an amazing job. And I heard you saying you are the director of Jijana attorneys. So the assumption is that you own the company. I pray to God that you grow from strength to strength. And my experience with being on this platform is that there has been no one who comes to this platform abuye kungabi noshintsho in their life, depending on what they were talking about here. So with you, I have no doubt your practice is going to grow. You're going to have clients, and if you're part of that pro bono attorneys with Wills Week, I know that there are people in Durban who are going to come and busboos sometimes, hey, there was a lady there who said this and that. And we are going to share your details. Actually, I'm going to give you time to share your details so that people who are watching, they can actually save your details.
Okay. So, abantu bangacheka ku-website yethu. We do have a website which has my email address, which has our contact details. Igama lethu it's Cawu Jijana Attorneys. uCawu ke it's CAW dash Jijana Attorneys. Yabona nje xa uthi Google, hayi noko I'm not a bogus attorney, uzamthola pha. Uzamthola. Uzamthola, yonke information ikhona. And in the open also kwi-cell number yam, I prefer ukuthi I have a very intimate relationship with clients zam, so that they feel ukuthi ndingummeli wabo, ndiligqwetha labo. Ndiyazi-allow ile nto i-calls from my personal cell number.
And what is your
which is 071 00 90 797.
Okay. We will put this on our Facebook platform under this video, so that whenever people are watching and then they go through the comments, they will see your details are there, and you must be willing to receive whatever God is going to bless you with as far as clients are concerned.
Glory to Jesus.
Amen. Sisi, thank you so much. This was such a wonderful conversation. You know, every time you have a conversation with Amagqwetha, it becomes so stiff because you don't know if am I guilty of something or not. So, but this conversation was so welcoming and so warm and extremely educational. So now I think people are aware of the differences between a will and a trust. But I think last words from me to everyone who's going to watch this video is that you need to draft a will, because you don't know, ungapuma tomorrow going to work and never come back, and then your children might be left destitute. If you don't have children and you have assets, your assets will go to the government, you know, and you will never have any wishes that may be actioned post your passing. So it's very important for us to have a will. We talk about this every year at least, and I think today those who did not know, now they know. Even if you have a few things, even if it's just the furniture, and then I want my furniture to go to Silalo in Cape Town, I will receive it. Bring it.
And we asked abantu balola ne-furniture. I remember omnye ePretoria babelelwa i-picture nje yasedongeni, abelungu belela nje picture yasedongeni uba umakhulu wam wayefuna ibe yam, umakhulu wam wayefuna ibe yam. I remember one person owayedila naloo matter wathi ngosuku, kudala ke besenza meeting, wathi ngosuku ebekufanele bayazonika i-ruling, wayephethe izembe wathi, if you don't decide, ndayikhatha into half, athatha omnye half omnye, athatha omnye half omnye. So yonke into iyalwisa, like literally everything iyalwisa kwinto ze-estates.
So the best thing is, in order for your assets not to fall on the wrong hands, have your will, and your will must be practical, and your will must be signed. If it's more than one page, make sure that each page is initialed by everyone, including the two witnesses. It's two witnesses, ne?
Yes.
Yeah. So friends, thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. Thank you for the questions that some of you have sent at the very beginning of the conversation. And I hope that you have learned a little bit. And now that you know better, I pray that you do better. Start drafting your will tonight so that tomorrow you can meet with someone, whether it is an attorney or anyone that you can now, iron out your will and say, these are the assets that are owned. Should I die or on my passing, this is what I wish to see happen to my assets, so that tomorrow we do not see you on Mojalav and your family fighting over your RDP house, fighting over your Beetle car. Omni ati, I'll take his spill. Omni ati, I want tires. So please do better, friends. We know that we can. Sister Wekazi, thank you so much. And we hope to see you again. If not, there are people who have come here and then we saw them on TV because they started here. So here,
thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So friends, from me, it is good night and God bless. Thank you so much, sis. Let me stop.
Thank you.